Are you ready to get some soil under those fingernails and get down and dirty with some new soil mixes that I have got sent over to try? Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantyggoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So today is going to be an interesting video because I had a company that's based in Europe, as far as I'm aware, reach out to me, and it's a very young individual that runs the business, reached out to me and said, love to send you some of our soil mixes to try out. Nothing was requested, they didn't even request a video or anything, they just wanted me to try out the soil mixes, and obviously I will always bring you along for the ride. This is obviously not a sponsored video in that respect, but as I said, been sent these stuff over to try, and try we will. But first, let's unbox some substrates. That's a very heavy box, but I got loads, so we can try. I'm really hoping the table isn't going to like snap. It might do. Let me put it further down onto the ground and we can do it that way. But you saw that it's a box basically, which is the important bit. So the company is called Symbotanica, Symbotanica, S-Y Botanica. I'll put it at the top there. And it's quite cool. They've got a good scheme, so they kind of send a little card saying thanks for the purchase. They really believe in their soil mixers. They've got a kind of referral scheme, so you can invite a friend and get 10 euros. Or if you want to leave a review, there's also a code for the next purchase. And they talk about their range, why choose Syba soil. So Syba, S-Y-B-A soil. And what they kind of say on this, and I will read it out, is the perfect structure of nutrients for your specific plant family, allowing you to getting away with more mistakes in care. The potting soil your houseplant deserves. We shall all be the judge of that. I think they know this anyway. So obviously I take a moment of appreciation towards companies that will reach out to people like me or anybody else that will do this, knowing full well that we will put their product through their paces, and hopefully they've done a good enough job that they know and believe their product is good enough to do that, basically. So there is something to be said of that. And they do also know that they're saying that their soil is produced by hand, and they work from people that work in a social work facility. And oh, this is interesting. I did not know this. This is cool. With the aid of helping people who have got mental and physical disadvantages with jobs. That is really, really cool. I like that there's a social element to this as well. So very, very cool. First brownie point from me. So I got a plethora of things. So first thing is I got a 5-liter bag of moss. And you might see that some of this might look a bit wet in terms of the soil mixes and stuff like that. There isn't actually that much wetness. This box has been sitting here for like almost a week now, just because it's been so busy. And apologies again that I kind of had a couple of weeks where I was only bringing out one video, but there was so much going on basically. But hopefully I should be back to kind of filming a bit more steadily until I take that 1 week off, where I will force myself to not film or edit and do anything like that and actually take a holiday, though that week will be great. But bag of Sphagnum Moss. As I always say, you can never have enough moss. And let's open it up and see. So very, ooh, nice wet moss, not sapping wet, but it is moist. It doesn't seem like it's got too many sticks or twigs or any of the other paraphernalia in it. I say this as I bring out a stick from it, but generally speaking, it seems quite healthy. There's some green structures in there as well. And it does say that it's responsibly sourced. So I'm trying to see if there's anything on here specifically on the Sphagnum Moss. No, but I will put links to the product pages down below as well. But this looks good. I mean, Sphagnum Moss is Sphagnum Moss, and it seems like some of the best, not best, but some of the better sphagnum moss that you can get on the market. And a reason why I wanted to also try out these products is I'm very aware that a lot of my content when it comes to trying out products tend to be from UK-based companies, and I'm based in the UK. It kind of makes sense. Interestingly enough, I have got some viewers and subscribers, at least from what I can see from my analytics, that are based in the UK, but a large amount of you lovely people are actually based in and around the world. A lot of people from like Canada, the States, a lot of people from Europe, probably more so than I get from a UK audience, which is really interesting. So I thought something that is available, it ships to the UK as well, but is available for Europe would be quite useful for all of you as well. So yeah, so far so good. This is good. Ooh, you know, I had to, and I think it's probably why it's so heavy. This is so heavy. Semi-hydro mix. So very similar to other brands, and I won't name names for this video, but it is, oh yes, and it is that chunky mix as well. It's not, it's like kind of very coarse mix rather than a fine mix, but it has got your usual suspects from what I can see. And it has got the lava rocks, it's got the zeolite, it's got the pumice in here. Very, very cool. I cannot see any slow release fertilizer, which ironically enough, I think having spoken to a lot of people, I think that is something that people maybe appreciate a bit more than I thought, because it gives you the strength and the power to put your own slow release fertilizers in if you want, or keep it kind of sans or without fertilizer, and you can then fertilize in your own way. So that is quite good, but very heavy. This is a 3 litre bag. It's a very heavy bag. But yes, I thought I'd try this as well. You can never have enough. Me personally can never have enough semi-hydro mix. So yeah. So I got some of their soil mixes that I don't think I've seen in a lot of other places, and I thought, ooh, brave that they're doing it specifically for that. So I wanted to try them. So the first one is a Hoya mix. And this is very, very cool. Oh, this one does have a bit more. It's also talking about the fact that they use worm castings, worm poop. I do love some worm castings. It's really, really good for plants generally. But yeah, I thought they've got Hoya mix, and I don't know whether or not I've seen, I might be wrong. There might be other companies that do Hoya mixes, but I'm just like, ooh, and I do have a Hoya that I want to plant up, and we can do that during this video, and we can revisit later on. But I can see here, I don't know whether or not they give any of the plant composition or the soil composition on the actual packaging. I can't see anything specific, basically, other than the fact that it talks about the kind of worm castings. But I can see some coco coir, I can see some bark in there, I can see some perlites. There's obviously the worm casting. And it's really interesting when I see these soil mixes, I'm just like, how does this compare to when I would make my own mix? And actually not far off, but this feels very fluffy. I would imagine Hoyas would love this. So this is going to be one of the soil mixes that I'm going to try today. And by try, I mean I'm not going to do a proper scientific test. I've got some Hoya cuttings, hopefully that are still alive, in a propagation box that I need to plant up. Some of them I've put in a semi-hydro mix and they're doing well. I do want to try one of them in this, basically, and see how it goes. Now, obviously, I had to go for a bog standard Aroid mix. I did get quite a few soil mixes actually. This is quite heavy, so this is a 5 litre. So it's quite a decent quantity. Again, this talks about worm castings in the back. So potentially I would imagine most of their soil mixes would have worm casting. There's one or two that are coming up that I'm curious to see if they have it in. But again, very similar to the Hoya mix, but this is arguably a bit fluffier. So I will bring it in so you might be able to see. It's bizarre, I would have never have thought, but a lot of you actually, I think, apparently quite like having a look at soil mixes and growing media, which is nice because it means I've found my people. I can also see charcoal in here as well, which I don't think I saw in the Hoya one. I might be wrong, but this one has also not just got bark. There is some bark, but I think this one has also got some of the cocoa chunks. I need another coffee today, but very, very cool. And this is one that I will also be trying. And this one or two of these soil mixes, I will do a specific type of experiment based on kind of some of the results that I've seen from my other experiments. And I was saying, let's do it in a more scientific way, yeah? Okay, so this is a bag that had split slightly at the top, but it's fine. For me, I was actually going to say I'm very surprised because they're minimizing the plastic, I think, to a certain point with this, because these bags are very heavily filled to the point that I'm just like, how are you getting these to close before they come over? But this is another interesting one. So this is a lithops and split rock mix. Again, not one that I think I've ever seen before, specifically for that kind of type of plant. And I thought, let's give this a try. But actually, this is very cool. Ingredients, again, doesn't say anything specific. It does talk about worm castings again, but I will bring it in so you might be able to see what that soil mix is like. So that is quite cool. So there is, from what I can see, some pumice in there. There's some sand in there as well. There's the smallest hint of probably some cocoa coir. I think there's also some charcoal in this. I would imagine things like lithops would love this because it's just got enough of something that would keep a tiny bit of moisture in there, but generally this would drain water really, really quickly, which if you'd imagine where some of these plants are living, that's quite cool actually. So very, very cool. Obviously, if anybody's got, unless you're growing huge amounts of lithops, you probably might not need the 5 litre bag. And in hindsight, I probably should have got a smaller bag. I don't know if there is a smaller bag other than the 5 litre bag, but this is a lot. This is a lot. Like if you must have quite a few lithops that you'd want to do this. Annoyingly, I've only just repotted quite a few of my lithops. But we'll see how we get on. They might get moved into this as well at some point. And again, moving into really specifics, and I think other companies do this, because I'm 5, do mixes that are like this. This is one that's specific for a ficus, and I've got some ficuses now. There is a ficus that I've been trying to grow unsuccessfully in semi-hydro, the Ficus Audrey, and if you are the person that I swapped with in London for the Ficus Audrey, we were having a chat about this. I've not had better luck with this one. It still has done nothing since the last time we spoke, and this was almost a year ago now. So I have tried in semi-hydro. I will try moving it into a ficus mix and see how it gets on. So looking at this, and I will bring it in so you can see it as well. This is interesting because I would have never have done a ficus mix like this for myself. So I'm curious to try this. This has got quite a bit of sand in it. It's got some perlite. It has also got a small amount of bark, and obviously it's got the coir. Has it got any, it's me digging through soil. Has it got any activated charcoal? I think it does, yes. It's just the ratios obviously that are quite different. I always quite like it when they've got like bits of like cocoa husk in there as well. Really cool and really keen to try this out and see. This might not be the experiment that we do on this one, but I might try this out soon and I can always update you in other videos as well. This I am very excited about because very rarely do you see a carnivorous mix. And I'm aware that this is probably like mirroring on the screen. It depends if future me is going to be nice enough and not busy to kind of like turn the screen around, but believe me when it says carnivorous mix. Very cool. And for the people that try to grow carnivorous plants or just getting into, you probably don't want to go for big bags. And I know some people will sell carnivorous soil mixes, but a lot of the times it's quite large bags. So this is a really interesting mix. So I'll bring it in so you might be able to see. So what it has got there is quite a bit of sand. There is sphagnum moss in this. There is activated charcoal. And there is very fine milled cocoa coir, but this has also got vermiculite in it as well. So this is very, very interesting. And you've got some twigs that are happening. I'm assuming that's from the cocoa coir. very, very cool as well. So this is very exciting because as I said, you don't see this very, very often. And that is all the soil mixers unboxed. Shall we try a little experiment? And shall we do the experiment in the way that I talked about in the past? Okay, so you can see where this is going. Poor golden pothos. It will be tested fairly this time round. So let's do a cutting there, and I'll show you the cuttings before they go in. And I will try it there as well, and then one more there. Okay, so we've got cuttings. There might be slight difference in the cuttings. So we've got one node there with a golden pothos, two nodes actually, one there and one there. This one has got a very large aerial root. These are going to go straight into soil mixers. And this has got two leaves, so this might struggle a bit more, and has got some roots, because I didn't realize this is attaching to the floor, so I had to kind of rip it off slightly from the floor. But this should be aggressive enough that it should work. Now, what I'm going to be testing. So the two cuttings are going to get tested against a control. So let's do one to begin with. So first one will be this company's Aroid mix. So if I add in some of their Aroid mix there, and I will add the one with the two nodes, let's give it the best chance of working. And I will fill up the rest with their Aroid mix. It seems very, very fluffy, and it makes me happy. So that is one. We're using clear pots because we want to see the roots, and hopefully we shall see some growth with this. The leaf is a bit tiny, but the next one is just going to be kind of like a quick and dirty soil mix that I did, which is perlite and some coco coir. And for this one, I might go with the double leafed ones and the tiniest of roots. But let's try this one as well, just to kind of see, does it give it a bit of an advantage, basically. So let's pop that in and pop that in as well. Let's do the rest of the soil. You do not want to see my floor at the moment because everything is falling down below. Tappy, 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 tappy. And I'll maybe just push it in a bit just so it's got a bit more stability. That's the other one. So that is the test. I will be labeling these because I will forget. Now, what I want to do with the other one, the one with the longest roots, I've kept on the side for a good reason. So the largest root is going to go into, and the single node as well, because I need this to be a bit higher, will go into their semi-hydro mix. And looking at it now as I've taken it out, I will say they did not skimp out on the zeolite in any way or form. There's quite a bit of blue in here, but I'm going to have to hold this in a very specific way so I can get it in. And let's do that. Just hate that when it happens, and it's just like I just had enough for it not to be enough, basically. Let me just add a tiny bit more. There you go. It's being held enough, I think, potentially at this point. So it's a bit floppy. I say this as it kind of like flops down. Let's try popping it in a bit more. That should be a bit more stable. Before anybody asks the question, somebody who I know and love who isn't very good with plants is going to be getting all of these plants when they've eventually rooted out and done more. As a combined, here's some pothos, because I don't need any more pothos, and there's too many cuttings of pothos here. The last one is going to be an interesting one. So the last one is going to be the Hoya, and can we see all of those roots? Because this has been rooting in the prop box, as you can tell. There's only one leaf at the top there. I don't know whether or not it's a growing stem at the top, but I will try to wind this around and give it the best chance in their Hoya mix. So adding some of that Hoya mix in there. And I think, I will see if I'm wrong, I'll add a different one. I think this Hoya is Hoya Helwigiana, I think. And it was doing really well last year, but then at some point it really kind of like took a turn for the worse. And I'm trying to do this without. There's no way of being able to do like Hoya stems without it kind of like snapping. This is the problem with this one and why I've been kind of avoiding planting it in because it's already been cut basically. Right. You will go in. Whilst you see me struggle with a Hoya vine. Right, enough. There you go. There's a lot of roots, whether or not any of those are going to be usable now because I think that stem has been snapped a few times. We shall see, but right, let's... The amount of soil down below is intense. Right, let's get that in. Get some soil behind there as well. This one should take off because it's got a lot of roots. And yes, I might have possibly bent the stem a bit too much. I also don't want to like compact this too much because I want it to be able to dry out, but there we go. So that will be the experiment with this plant. But overall, kind of final thoughts, kind of ways of this, I am quite thoroughly impressed, I will say. The mixes seem really good. They seem really well thought out. Would it have been nice to have the ingredients on the packaging as well? Possibly. Delivery didn't take very long at all, coming from Europe to the UK. I think it was only like 2 or 3 days. And I think after they kind of ship, it comes over with DPD. So it's relatively fast for the UK. I don't know what the shipping is like to Europe, but I would imagine it's even easier because you don't have to deal with Brexit. But so far, so good. But yes, I will be doing an update on this in a good few weeks or months' time just to see how things are kind of panning out. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to cover on this. Very, 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 very exciting. And as I said, good mixes, really interesting and really glad to see more companies coming out with these more specialized mixes like the Carnivorous mix, the Hoya mix, the Lithops mixes. All of those things are very, very interesting. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.